Chapter 9. Guy Makes a Decision. The next day at work, Guy had a call from Douglas Freer of the Shaw Company. He had sent the company some drawings for a building, and he wanted them to give him a job. Mr. Haynes, Mr. Freer said, I've had a letter. There's no name on it, and it says that you knew about your wife's murder, and that the police want to speak to you. He waited for Guy to speak. Mr. Haynes, I wanted to tell you about the letter. Are the police still asking questions? No, Mr. Freer, and I don't know who sent the letter, Guy said. I don't know what it means. Then he asked, Mr. Freer, about the job. I'm sorry, Mr. Haynes, we gave that to another architect, Mr. Freer said quickly. Guy went out for a drink. He was very worried. If I murder Bruno's father, he thought, all of this will stop. No, I mustn't think that. But what can I do? What's the way out of this? Guy drank some more and then went home. He slept heavily. Early in the morning, Guy woke up and felt someone in the room. He saw the orange end of a cigarette burning in the dark. He knew who it was and what he wanted. Bruno? Guy said. You're ready now, aren't you, Guy? Bruno said softly. Yes, Guy said, and immediately felt better. Mother and I are going away tomorrow, Bruno said. Do it tomorrow night. I broke the back door so you can get in easily. Here's a key, too. Bruno gave Guy some gloves. You'll need these. His voice shook. Oh, Guy, I'll never see you again. Chapter 10. The Second Murder. Guy took the train for Great Neck that night. He had the gloves and his own small gun in his pocket. Bruno's gun was too big. It was raining when Guy got off the train at Great Neck. There was the bus, like Bruno had said in all his letters. Guy remembered all of it. At Grant Street, he got off the bus and started to walk. There was the tree and the street light, and there was the white wall of Bruno's house. Guy felt like an actor in a play he'd already done hundreds of times. Guy walked 15 steps along the white wall. Then he put up his hands and jumped onto the top of the wall. He looked down and saw the wooden box. There were no lights on in the house. Guy jumped down onto the box, landed without a sound, and ran across the grass towards the back door. He went up the 6 white steps near the back of the house and opened the back door. He didn't need the key. The kitchen was dark. Guy walked across it and then went towards the back stairs that the servants used. Bruno had told him not to use the house stairs because they all made a noise. But Guy had to be careful here, too. He missed step 3, step 4, and step 7 on the back stairs because they made a noise. Outside the door to one of the servants' bedrooms, the floor made a noise, and at the same time Guy heard a clock. It was midnight. He stopped. The servant was on the other side of the door. The noise of the clock went on and on. Could the servant hear? Now he remembered Bruno had said, between 11 and midnight. Was this why? Guy felt very hot. Slowly, he opened the door into the part of the house where the family lived. I've been here before, Guy thought. I've done all this before. I know everything about this house. Again, he felt like an actor in a play who did the same thing night after night. None of it was real. Guy closed the stair door quietly. And there, just there, very near, was another door. And behind that door was Guy's father. He walked quietly towards the door and slowly opened it with his left hand. He held his gun in his right hand. The bedroom was dark, but some light came through the window. It was only half open. Bruno said his father always had the window fully open. Because of the rain, Guy thought. But how will I get out? Now Guy could see Bruno's father in his bed sleeping quietly. There was the round, dark shape of his head. Came through the window. Guy shook with fear. A woman was laughing somewhere outside.
This man is alive, Guy thought. He could laugh too. He could... No, don't think. Don't think. Do it now. Do it! He fired the gun. Nothing happened. It was all a dream, all a play. Nothing was real. Guy fired again. Nothing. He breathed slowly and fired again. The room tore with a screaming sound.
Tore.
He fired a fourth time, and the screaming sound came again, as if the world had burst. "Caw!"
Ka.
said the man in the bed, and his head moved. Then Guy was running across the grass, but he didn't remember how he had got there. He ran like a man in a bad dream, who runs and runs, but cannot move. "You!" A man's voice shouted behind him. It was the servant. Guy stood in the shadow by the white wall. "You!" The servant shouted again. Guy's hand shot out and hit him on the chin, and the man fell to the ground. Guy jumped over the
Chin.
wall, but it was very dark, and he didn't know where he was. He tried to be calm. Then he heard a police car very near him. The blue light moved over him for a few seconds. "Where am I?" Guy thought. "I can't remember. Where must I go?" The blue light burned his eyes. He turned and ran away. Then some trees caught him. The branches scratched his face, and he pushed them away with his hands. But there were hundreds of them. He couldn't see, he couldn't think. He felt his own blood warm on his face and throat. Finally, Guy got out of the trees and saw a road and the lights of a town. He walked slowly along the road. He still had his gun, but his gloves were torn to pieces. They were probably in the trees behind him. He was too tired to go back and look. He wanted to walk and never stop. The next day, Guy looked at his face in the mirror. It was covered in scratches, and so were his hands. His body was heavy and tired. He thought he could never sleep enough in his life. Guy read the papers. All the stories about the murder said the murderer was a big, tall man, nothing like himself. But it said the bullets were very small, and Guy knew he had to throw away his gun. While he was reading, the doorbell rang. "Hello, Guy? Guy? How did—" It was Anne. "Oh, Guy, what happened to your face? Your hands?" "A fight. It was nothing," he said. "In a bar, Anne?" Anne didn't say anything for a few seconds. "But, Guy, that letter, the fight you had in my garden that night, and now this. What's happening?" He felt frightened. Then he started to cry and couldn't stop. Anne put her hand on his shoulder, but she didn't try to hold him. If I tell her the truth, Guy thought, she'll never touch me again. Chapter 11. The detective begins work. Bruno sat and looked at Arthur Gerard, his father's private detective, and thought how ugly he was. Gerard had a fat pink face and little eyes, and he wore a dirty suit. "I'll work on this murder for nothing, Charlie," Gerard said. "I liked your father. I also think this is all very interesting." "I don't care what you think," Bruno said. "You hated your father, didn't you?" Gerard asked. "He hated me." "Tell me about Thursday night again," Gerard said. "I left Mother about 2:45 in the morning. I went to get a hamburger. Then I went to a bar. Clark's," Bruno said. "Nobody saw you at Clark's," Gerard said. "It was a different bar then," Bruno said. "Okay. I want to know who you spoke to," Gerard said. "You see, I think it's strange that your father died on the night of the day you left. I think you spoke to someone, and they knew you were going away." "I said I don't care what you think," Bruno said. Gerard smiled. "All right, Charlie. You can go now," he said. Bruno left Gerard's office angrily, but then he thought about Guy. Gerard was too stupid to find out about him. Guy and me, Bruno thought, were like gods. The next day Gerard came to see Bruno and his mother. Bruno was sitting in the garden. "Anything new?" he asked Gerard. "We found these," Gerard said, and showed Bruno some small pieces of the purple gloves. He looked across the grass. "The murderer ran over there," Gerard said. "Then he got caught in the branches of the trees on the other side of the wall. These pieces were there." "Really?" Bruno tried to sound interested. "He knew where to go, too. The whole thing was planned. The box next to the wall, the broken back door. Gerard didn't finish. I'll see your mother now. Bruno watched Gerard's fat body walk slowly across the grass. He tried not to think about Gerard, but the man seemed to be everywhere, and a few minutes later he followed Gerard into the house. "Do you think Charlie knew about the murder?" Bruno heard his mother ask. "Yes, I think so, Elsie," Gerard said. "Don't you?" "I'll certainly tell you everything he tells me, Arthur," she said. His own mother! What if she remembered all the stories about Guy from the paper? Suddenly, Bruno felt alone. He wanted to sleep more than anything, but he needed more and more whiskey for that, and he woke up earlier and earlier in the morning. Chapter 12. The Good Man and the Bad Man. Guy had thrown away the big gun, the purple gloves, all the clothes he wore on that night, and his shoes. But he did not throw away his own little gun. He cleaned his flat again and again, especially at night, because he only slept for 2 or 3 hours now. If he did not clean the flat, he tried to work. He had a job to plan a hospital. But how could he do that with so much guilt in him, with so much murder? He was not taking any money for the job. How could he kiss his mother again? How could he talk to his friends? There was only Anne now. He still loved her, but his love for her made him 2 different people. The good man who loved Anne and built hospitals, and the bad man who murdered old men and helped to murder his wife. The new house was ready, and one Sunday Guy and Anne and her parents went to see it. "I hear there are lots of ducks and birds here. We could eat some," Anne's father said. "Are you good with a gun, Guy?" They all looked round the house. It was only a month until the wedding now. "We'll sit here every night as husband and wife," Guy thought. "How can I do that, when I know the things I've done?" "Guy," Anne said, "are you all right?" "Yes," he said, and laughed too loud. "I think you're working too hard, you know," Anne said. Anne and her mother started to make dinner, and her father made some drinks for all of them. What am I doing with these people? Guy thought. They are so good, and I'm so bad. I'm not part of their family, but if I try hard to live with them, that other man inside me, the bad one, will go away. He must. After dinner, Guy and Anne walked together in the garden. It was almost dark. "I'm going to get a job with a company of architects in New York, Anne," Guy said. "But you have the hospital to do, Guy," she said. "That'll take you a year. Is it because you won't take any money for the hospital job?" "Partly," Guy said, "but I just feel like it." "I know what the problem is," Anne said. "Do you, Anne?" Guy asked. "Do you?" For a minute he wanted her to know everything. "It's Miriam, isn't it?" Anne said. "You've changed so much since she died." No, I—" "Do you want us to marry Guy?" she asked. He couldn't answer her. He almost didn't know how to speak to her honestly now. Anne took his hand. "I think," she said, "you need me a lot just now, and I need you a lot." Guy looked into her eyes and thought, if I can do this, if I can keep this all, the other man inside me will go away. Chapter 13. The Wedding Day. On the day of his wedding, Guy was waiting in the church with his friend, Bob Treacher, for Anne to arrive. "Did you bring any whiskey, Bob?" Guy asked. "I need a drink." "Oh, yes," Bob said. "I forgot. Here you are." He gave Guy the bottle with a smile. Guy opened the bottle and put it on a table. After a few seconds, he picked it up and threw it against the wall. Broken glass and whiskey spread all over the floor. Guy stood with his back to Bob. "I'm very sorry, Bob," he said. "It's all right, Guy," he said. "You're nervous." "No, I'm not nervous," Guy thought. When are they going to stop this wedding? When are they all going to know about me? This is worse than the murder. I'm lying to Anne, but only she can save me. Guy could not stop the wedding. It was like the murder of Bruno's father. Guy felt he was an actor in a bad play, doing something he had done thousands of times before. At the party afterwards, Guy suddenly saw Bruno's face, smiling madly. Then it disappeared. "Congratulations, Guy!" People were all shouting at the same time. "Good luck, Guy and Anne!" The noise got louder and louder. "Good luck! Good luck! Guy and Anne!" Good luck, Guy. I really want you and Anne to be happy as I am. And there was that soft voice and that weak face with the mad red eyes in it, and Bruno's hand was on Guy's shoulder, and he was looking at Anne. "Go away," Guy whispered. "You mustn't come here." "Are you a relation of Teddy Faulkner?"
Teddy.
Bruno asked Anne. He shook her hand. "He's my cousin," Anne said. "We play tennis sometimes," Bruno said. "Are you a friend of Guy's?" Anne asked. Bruno laughed. "Friend? I'm only his oldest friend in the world. We went to school together." He put his arm around Guy's shoulder. "Didn't we, Guy?" "You never told me about that man, Guy," Anne said later. "We didn't really go to school together, Anne," Guy said quickly. I met him at the Parker Institute. It was last December." "Can't you see?" Guy thought as he looked at all the people in the room who were speaking to Bruno. "Can't you see he's mad?" Chapter 14. Guy's Secret Brother. Guy took a job with the company Horton and Keith.
Horton.
Architects. They gave him a big shop to build. It was easy to do, nothing special. Anyone could do it. He and Anne had their first party at the house soon after their wedding. "Bruno's coming to the party," Anne told Guy. "Why?" Guy said. "He isn't my friend." Bruno was drunk when he arrived. He looked at Anne all the time. "I like your dress, Anne," he said. Bruno always noticed women's clothes. "Now, where will you go for your first holiday? Italy? You know, Anne, Guy and I always talked about traveling." Guy took Bruno to the corner of the room. "Get out now," he said, "or I'll kill you." "Is that a promise, Guy?" Bruno laughed. "You know, Guy, I think Anne is very beautiful. I like it here." An hour later he fell behind the sofa, completely drunk, and went to sleep. "He can stay the night," Anne said. "Where did you find him, Guy?" a man asked. "They won't let him into our club anymore." A few days later, Bruno sent flowers to Anne to say sorry for being so drunk at the party. "Aren't they nice?" she said to Guy. "I think Bruno's interesting." Horton and Keese liked Guy's drawings for the shop. Guy hated them. This was the kind of ordinary work he didn't want to do. He wanted to leave the company, although they wanted him to do more work. But there was something much worse than this. A normal man could build a bad shop or a good hospital, but Guy wasn't normal. Sometimes he looked in a mirror and saw the other man who was inside him, the murderer, his secret brother. The telephone rang, and Guy's secretary picked it up. "A man wants to speak to you, Mr. Haynes," she said. "Hello, Guy," Bruno said. "Come to lunch." Guy couldn't argue with Bruno in front of the secretary, and he agreed to meet Bruno at a restaurant 10 minutes later. Bruno had 4 expensive ties, which he showed Guy. "They're for you, Guy," he said. "Do you like them?" He was like a lover. "Anne spoke to me on the phone this morning," Bruno said. "She told me you're both going on a trip. She's a great woman, Guy. You must be very happy." For a moment, Bruno wanted to hold Guy's hand like a brother. "Yes, I am," Guy said, "very lucky." "What does Anne like doing, Guy?" Bruno asked. "Does she like me?" "You've never loved a woman, have you?" Guy said. "You don't know what love is, do you?" Bruno looked at the table. "No," he said. "You give me ties," Guy said. "But you could give me to the police in the same way." "Oh, Guy!" Bruno started crying. "I have to go," Guy said. He jumped up and ran out of the restaurant. "Why do people do this to me?" Bruno thought. "Why? Why?" "How do you know Guy Haynes's wife?" Gerard asked Bruno. He had all Bruno's bills, and he had seen the one for the flowers Bruno sent to Anne. "I'm a friend of her husband," Bruno said. "Mother and I were thinking of building a house. He's an architect." "Why did you send Mrs. Haynes flowers?" Gerard asked. "You must know them very well." "No, I went to a party there, and I had a good time." "Let's talk about all these men you know," Gerard said. "Matt Levine, Mark Lev, you saw a lot of them before the murder." "Yeah, and Mark killed his own father, too," Bruno said. "Ernie Schroeder?" Gerard asked. "Charlie, please." Bruno tried to think of something to say. Chapter 15. Proof. Guy went on a sailing holiday with Anne on her boat,
Sailing.
the India. They were away from home for 3 weeks. Guy was happy and calm. He looked at the clear sky and the blue sea, and the sea made him think of the bridge he wanted to build, a long, white bridge like a pair of wings. He wanted to be a great architect. Guy saw Anne looking at him with love in her eyes, and he felt all the bad times were gone. A few days later, the phone rang at his home. "Hello, Mr. Haynes," a man said. "This is Arthur Gerard. I'm a detective. Could I come to talk to you at your house, please? Now." Guy had to say yes, and Gerard came over quickly. "Do you know Charles Bruno, Mr. Haynes?" he asked. "Yes, I know him," Gerard said. "His father was murdered in March." "I didn't know that," Anne said, and looked at Guy in surprise. "Neither did I," Guy said quickly. "Murdered?" "When and where did you meet Charles Bruno, Mr. Haynes?" Gerard asked. At the Parker Institute last December," Guy said. He only said it because he had told Anne that at the wedding when she asked him about Bruno. Why hadn't he and Bruno planned a story? "When did you see Mr. Bruno again?" Gerard asked. "At my wedding in June," Guy said. "And he came to a party in July, didn't he, Mrs. Haynes?" Gerard asked Anne. "Yes," she answered. "Do you like him?" Gerard asked, smiling. Anne looked at his smile. She didn't like it. "Well enough," she said finally. Gerard asked them a few more questions, and then he left. "Does Gerard think Bruno murdered his father?" Anne asked Guy later. "He probably thinks it's one of Bruno's friends," Guy said. "But it was me, Anne. It was me," he thought. "You never know what people are really doing, do you?" Anne said, shaking her head in surprise. Later in the day, Bruno came to the house. "You're drunk," Guy said. "Get out." "Perhaps we should get a taxi for you," Anne said. Bruno fell against Guy. He was saying the same thing again and again. "I'll tell her. I'll tell her. What?" Anne asked Guy. "What's he saying?" "Nothing," Guy said. "I'll put him to bed." Guy pulled Bruno out of the room and took him to a bedroom. Bruno slept for several hours, and when he woke up, Guy was with him. "Bruno, listen to me. Did you tell Gerard we met in December, at the Parker Institute?" Guy asked. "Yeah, I said that," Bruno said. "Can I have a drink? Look, Gerard thinks this friend of mine, Matt Levine, murdered my father. He's already killed 2 or 3 men. "I won't let another man take the blame for the murder," Guy said. "He won't get the blame," Bruno said. "Gerard won't find anything about Matt Levine or us. There's no proof. Will you go now?" "No," Bruno said quietly. "I want to be with you and Anne." And Guy knew that he hated Bruno but liked him at the same time. "You know, Guy, I like you, but you're in more trouble than me," Bruno said. "Our servants saw you that night. Anne saw those scratches on your face, and there's the gun, the gloves. The police could ask you some very difficult questions." "But what have they got about me and Miriam, Guy? Tell me, Guy, what have they got?" Guy and Anne were on the India. The sky was grey, and the air was hot. Guy held his little gun in his pocket. "Why is Bruno so interested in you?" Anne asked Guy. "He's got nothing to do," Guy said. His hand tightened round the gun. "And you met him at the institute?"
Tightened.
She asked. "Yes." Guy looked into the water. Why is she asking all these questions? He thought. She knows something is wrong. She knows I'm lying, but she doesn't know about what. Guy heard Anne walk away. He quickly took his gun out of his pocket and dropped it into the sea. "What was that?" Anne was standing behind him. He could think of nothing to say to her. Chapter
Gerald.
16. Gerard comes closer. "Ma, I don't feel good." Bruno was in his mother's bedroom. He walked very slowly into her bathroom and got the bottle of whiskey he had hidden there, but he dropped it on the floor. He couldn't control his hands. "Charlie?" his mother said, and looked worried. "I can't breathe, Ma." He tore his clothes off. "Oh, God!" "I'll get a doctor," his mother said. "No, they'll take me away," he screamed. "Look at my hands, Ma." His middle fingers were bent tightly.
Bent. bent.
inside his hand. He couldn't stop it. He couldn't move them. "Look, Ma! Charlie!" his mother shouted. Bruno fell to the floor. He couldn't speak normally. "Dom!
Massum.
Massum! Tahem! Massum! Ah!" Then a doctor came and gave Bruno some medicine, and he went to sleep. "The drink is killing him," the doctor told Bruno's mother. "He must stop." Bruno woke up later and saw Gerard standing near the bed. "I'm sorry to wake you," Gerard said with his stupid smile, "but I found something. Remember this?" He threw Guy's book onto the bed. "I remember," Bruno said. "I got this book at the Hotel La Fonda. It's Haynes's book. You met him 18 months ago on the train to Santa Fe, didn't you?" Gerard said. "No," Bruno said. "I found the book on the train, that's all. I wanted to send it to Guy, but I lost it. I met him in December." "So you made calls to Metcalf 18 months ago, and you didn't even know Mr. Haynes?" Gerard asked. "I found the phone bills." "Yeah, I phoned about the book," Bruno said angrily. "And you called before the murder, but you didn't call after," Gerard said. "Why not?" "I don't know," Bruno shouted. "I'm tired of murder." "Oh, I believe that," Gerard said. "I believe that." A few moments later, Guy had a phone call from Bruno in his office. "Gerard knows about the book and the phone calls I made to Metcalf," Bruno said very quietly, as if someone was listening. "But I told him the calls were about the book, and we met in December, all right?" "All right," Guy said and put the phone down. Gerard was coming closer and closer, but he couldn't stop it. He looked at the letter lying next to the phone. It was from his friend, Bob Treacher, in Canada. "I have an important job in Alberta. I want you to build a bridge for me as soon as possible. Right now. Bob." "Nobody knows who murdered Guy Haynes's first wife, Miriam," Gerard said to Bruno in his office. "I know," Bruno said. "Did you talk to Guy about Miriam? You're interested in murder," Gerard said. "I didn't talk to him about it," Bruno said. "Do you think he planned it?" Gerard asked. "No, I don't," Bruno said angrily. "You obviously don't know the type of man Guy Haynes is. He's a great architect." Gerard suddenly called out, "Come in, please, Mr. Haynes." He saw Bruno jump with surprise as Guy walked into the room. "Did you and Charles ever talk about your wife's murder, Mr. Haynes?" Gerard asked. "No," Guy said. "Did he ever tell you he wanted to murder his father?" Gerard asked. He had that slow, stupid smile on his face. "No," Guy said. Gerard held up Guy's book. "Charles found this on the train, but you didn't meet on the train, did you?" "No," Guy said. "The waiter who brought dinner to the two of you in Charles's room on the train says you
Charles
did, Mr. Haynes," Gerard said, looking into Guy's eyes all the time. Guy felt hot with shame. He couldn't speak. "So what?" Bruno said angrily. "So why are you both lying?" Gerard asked. "Your wife was murdered, Mr. Haynes, a few days after you two met, and your father was murdered a few months later, Charles. Did you plan something?" "We planned nothing," Guy said. "Did Charles tell you he wanted his father dead, Mr. Haynes? Perhaps you were frightened to tell me about it?" Gerard asked. "No," Guy said. He felt himself going deeper and deeper into his own lies. And when would Gerard find out the truth? Did he know it already? Bruno and Guy left the office together. "You know," Bruno said, "he's looking for other people. Gerard doesn't think we did it. We had no reason to do it, did we?" Gerard went to see Anne at home late one autumn afternoon. "I think," he said, "that Charles Bruno told your husband about this plan to murder his father, and your husband didn't want to talk about it. Then, if your husband knew Miriam might die too, they had a kind of secret, didn't they?" "Guy couldn't do a thing like that," Anne said. "Do you think they met in March when Charles's father died and you don't know about it?" Gerard asked. "It's possible," Anne said. But she didn't know why she said it. When was that fight, she thought? February? March? And was it with Bruno? That was it. Guy tried to stop Bruno killing his father. "How was your husband in March, Mrs. Haynes?" Gerard asked. "He was nervous," she said. "It was a difficult time. His work." She stopped speaking. Gerard looked at her. Then he smiled and said, "Call me if you think of anything you know, Mrs. Haynes," and left quietly. A few minutes later, Anne saw Gerard outside the house, sitting in his car and writing notes. "Why did I say that about March? Is he writing about that?" she thought. "Gerard was here," Anne said that night as soon as Guy came home. "He wanted to know about March, if you knew Bruno had planned his father's murder for that month." Guy poured a glass of whiskey.
Poured.
Then he heard himself saying, "Look, Anne, Bruno told me on the train that he wanted his father dead. I'm not going to say anything because the police can use that to hang an innocent man." Anne said gently, "Yes, what you're doing is right." And she smiled. "It's terrible, isn't it? Murder." Guy hated his lies. He felt empty inside. He thought he was worse than Bruno, who was honestly bad, even if he was never caught. He couldn't live with Anne like this. Chapter 17. The Perfect Crime. Gerard smiled happily at Chief of Police Phil Dowland and said, "Can't you guess?" "About Samuel Bruno's murder?" Dowland asked. "You think his son Charles did it, don't you?" He didn't like Gerard because he was a private detective, and he didn't work by police rules. "No." Gerard's smile grew wider. "But I think he did another murder. Do you know Guy Haynes?" "Yes," Dowland said. "His wife was murdered last June." "Guy Haynes and Charles Bruno met on a train to Santa Fe 10 days before Miriam Haynes died," Gerard said. "You think Bruno killed her?" Dowland asked. "You've got no proof." "Yes, I have," Gerard said happily. "I've spoken to a friend of Bruno's, Edward Wilson, who saw him going to the railway station in Santa Fe on the day of Miriam's murder, a taxi driver in Metcalf who drove Bruno to the amusement park the very night Miriam Haynes died, and a man he tried to buy whiskey from near the amusement park, and another taxi driver who saw him too. And I've got bills of phone calls Bruno made to Metcalf." "But why did Bruno murder this woman?" Dowland said, laughing. "Because he met her husband on a train?" "No." "Oh," Gerard said. "You don't see, do you? It was a plan. Bruno wanted Guy to kill his father, and he did." "Guy Haynes?" Dowland shouted. "Oh, this is—" "Yes, Guy Haynes," Gerard said. "He didn't want to, but he had to after Bruno murdered his wife. Guy was frightened. It was all Bruno's idea, the perfect crime. There was no reason for Guy and Bruno to murder these two people. They thought the police could never find them." "What happens now?" Dowland asked. "I'm going on holiday," Gerard said. "I want to check some more details about Guy Haynes. I can wait a few weeks." Chapter 18. A Terrible Accident. Guy was living in Canada and building his bridge. He came home one weekend and saw a mess in the house only one person could make. "Bruno was here," he said. "Yes," Anne said. "You know he's mad, don't you?" Guy said. Anne didn't answer, and Guy looked at her carefully. Anne thought, "I know he's the one who wrote that letter to me in March, and the one you had a fight with. I know there's something—" Then she said, "Guy, I'm going to have a baby. Are you pleased?" "A baby?" Guy said, and he laughed with happiness. The next day, Bob Treacher came from Canada to stay with Guy and Anne. It was a sunny day, and the police had called to say that they had no more questions for Guy and Bruno about his father's murder. Anne was pregnant. He had a good job. He felt his life was changing, and all the bad things were in the past. The phone rang, and Anne answered. "Oh, hello," she said. "Yes, come with us. We'll meet you by the boat," she said to Guy. "That was Bruno. He's coming with us on the India today." And suddenly Guy felt everything seemed black again. It always came back. They stopped for a friend of Anne's, Helen Hayburn, on the way to the boat, and Bruno was waiting for them when they arrived. Bruno was very excited. "Come on, Guy," he shouted. "This is a great day. We've won." "Won what?" Anne asked, and Guy went cold inside. He looked at Bruno. "Have a drink," said Bruno, offering Anne his bottle of whiskey. "No, thank you," she said. Come on, everybody, Bruno shouted. Let's go! The boat moved quickly over the grey sea, and the wind was quite strong. Bruno ran about the boat. Sit down, Bob said. Who are you? Bruno asked drunkenly. A friend
Drunkenly. Drunkenly.
of Guy's? Yes, Bob said politely. I've known Guy all his life, Bruno shouted. Have you? Guy saw Anne look at him with surprise. Every time with Bruno, something bad happened. When will he say it? Guy thought. The truth. He could say anything, do anything, for the rest of my life. Come on, let's sing, Bruno said. Guy, sing with me. Oh, sit down, Helen said to Bruno. Yes, sit down, Guy said, and keep quiet. Bruno started to cry. They didn't want him. He tried to walk away from all of them, even Guy. Suddenly, a large wave came up and hit the boat hard. The wave covered Bruno, and with a scream he fell into the sea. Bruno! Guy shouted. He jumped into the sea. It was very cold, and the waves seemed to be as high as mountains. He saw Bruno's head very far away. Guy! Bruno called once. A dying man. Guy swam towards the place where he had seen Bruno. Then he dived down into the cold,
Dived.
grey water. The sea turned him round and round and round. There was nothing. Guy could see nothing. He was the loneliest man in the world. Where was his friend? His brother? Chapter 19. The End at Last. Early one morning, Guy got out of bed. He was very lonely without Bruno. He carried all the guilt inside himself now. He picked up some pieces of paper and started to write about everything. The train, Miriam, how he murdered Bruno's father. He left it for Anne to read. Anne is good, Guy thought. The rest of us, Bruno, me, his father, Miriam, Gerard, all of us are bad. Then he thought of Miriam's boyfriend, Owen Markham. He had loved Miriam. He was the father of her child. Guy remembered Owen at the inquest, where he seemed calm and gentle. Suddenly, Guy needed to talk to Owen. It was important, and after writing to Anne, it was the next thing he had to do. He took a plane for Houston, Texas, where Owen Markham now lived. Gerard had come back from holiday after Bruno died, and Guy thought Gerard might follow him to Houston. He looked carefully at the other passengers on the plane, but Gerard was not there. After asking some questions in different places in Houston, Guy found Owen in a bar. I need to talk to you, Guy said. I've got a room at the Rice Hotel. Please. Owen looked at Guy with his calm brown eyes for a long time. Then he said, All right. In the hotel room they drank whiskey. Like the first time with Bruno, Guy thought. I know the man who killed Miriam, Guy said. I didn't stop him. I'm sorry. I know you loved Miriam. No, I didn't, Owen said, and drank some whiskey. He spoke slowly. And I didn't want that child. She did that to make me marry her. It was all wrong. Owen didn't care. But Guy had to continue. You must listen to me, Guy said. You must understand. This man, Miriam's murderer, his name was Bruno, he made me do a murder too. His father. You see, we met on a train, and Bruno said we should do the murders and the police would never catch us. He hated his father, Owen. It was frightening. I said I had some problems with Miriam, but I wanted to divorce her. I said no to her murder, but then he killed Miriam, and I only knew after he had done it. You understand? I said no. But after her murder, Bruno phoned me again and again and wrote letters telling me to murder his father. I was frightened he would tell my girlfriend that I knew about Miriam's murder, and I was tired of it all. So tired, so I said yes, and I agreed to kill his father. I only wanted Bruno to go away, that's all. I had to do it. Owen, I'm guilty too. Do you hate me? Hate you for what? Owen asked, stupidly. I don't know you. Who did you murder? Guy felt very tired. You have to go, he said to Owen. You don't understand. Owen was very drunk, and he didn't move. I'll call a taxi for you, Guy said. But where was the phone? Guy looked on the floor and saw it under the bed. The phone was lying near his chair, so that someone could listen to everything he was saying. He picked it up. Hello? He said. Hello, Mr. Haynes, Gerard's voice said. I heard what you said to Mr. Markham. May I come in? Guy opened the door and looked at Gerard's big smile. Guy tried to speak, but he said something completely different from what he wanted. He said, "Take me."